watching now? Good, because I'm anonymous. Not that crowd there. Kevin. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
I just kind of
Yeah.
Jonathan, well,
Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anna McArdle. Welcome to the Friends of Liberty Republican Club, and a very special welcome to our featured speaker, Chairman Kevin Neal, from whom you will hear from shortly. But first, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It is my pleasure to introduce the Republican Party Chairman in Palm Beach County, Kevin Neal. Kevin is the founder and CEO of Neal Development Company. He has developed over 3,000 apartment units in South Florida worth over $1 billion. Kevin and Laura Neal live in Delray Beach with their one-year-old twin sons, and they are happily expecting another set of twins this fall. Chairman
He's
Neal,
all right.
the microphone is yours.
does he get any sleep?
All right, well, I'll try to keep it brief here. Hilda wanted me to be mindful of the time. But thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. So I'm the chairman of the Republican Party of Palm Beach County. I'll just tell you a little bit about what we do and what we're working on here. So our mission is to promote Republican principles and ideals, develop a grassroots organization to motivate our electorate to vote, get Republicans elected to public office, and raise the funds necessary for these initiatives. It's a great time to be a Republican in Florida. Our party has raised $10 million more statewide than the Democrats this year to date, which is fantastic, and $2.75 million last quarter alone. In terms of voter registration, we've flipped 25 counties from blue to red in the last, or since 2016, and have turned what was a 400,000 voter Democrat advantage in the state to a 625,000 Republican voter advantage, which is the largest in our history. So it's been almost a million voter swing since 2016. And we're trending in the right direction in Palm Beach County here. By the end of Governor DeSantis' current term, we will have had a Republican governor for the last 28 years, which is pretty impressive. And his victory in 2022 was the largest of a Republican governor in the modern era in Florida. We've got supermajorities in the state House and state Senate, and they've been passing legislation that really in a lot of ways reflects our values as Republicans, which is important. This is why we elect officials to public office. And what we're working on mostly here, as I said, is electing officials to local office in the county here, and starts with at the municipal level. We're big on municipal elections, which are coming up in March, and we're expecting a huge turnout for the presidential primary, for folks coming out to vote for Governor DeSantis and President Trump in the primary. And then we're encouraging folks to vote down ballot. Here in Boca with Brian Stenberg running, and we're looking for another candidate to run. If anyone knows anyone or anyone's interested, there's another seat that's up for election in Boca. There are 2 seats that are up, and so that's an important one for us. We have county commission races. John Fisher's here, and we have other county commission races that we're supporting. U.S. Congress races, state rep, and state Senate races as well. And if you've been here since 2020, you know how important it is to hold these local offices here at the city and county level. And as I mentioned, the voter registration is huge, so if you're not registered to vote, please register to vote. Tell your friends and family to register to vote. We are, picking up ground on the Democrats here in the county. We're at almost 30% Republicans to 38% Democrats and about a third NPAs, independents. And a big thing that's important that we're telling folks is to request a vote by mail ballot. You can still vote in person, and we encourage that, but we have really struggled and trailed the Democrats in the vote by mail department, as everyone knows, locally and nationally in recent elections. And so we're asking everyone to request a vote by mail ballot. The last numbers, the Democrats have requested about 70,000 ballots in the county, and we've requested just under 30,000, and NPA's at about 25,000. So we're behind. And you just go online to the SOE website. It's very quick. It's very easy. If you're registered to vote, I think you can call them as well. It's probably best to go online and request them for all the elections that are coming up. The municipals in March, the elections in August, the primaries, and the constitutional elections, and then the general election in November. And they send it to your house. And if you can't make it to the polls, you can fill it out and send it in. But it's also, if you plan on voting in person, it's a great insurance policy to have where if you can't make it there, you can send it in. And we're also encouraging folks to vote early in the early voting process. And our counterparts in Miami in 2022 had phenomenal numbers and won 90% of their races down there. And they won vote by mail, they won early voting, and they won day of voting. So it can be done as Republicans. We don't have to lose through the mail. We don't have to lose early voting. And I believe we're going to win early voting in this county in 2024 and day of voting, which we typically do. And I think we're going to do better than we have through the mail. And there are a number of seats that we think are, why do I keep that are in play, and a number that were close last time that we're going to defend. And so we have high expectations for 2024, but we need your support. So I'd love to take some questions, and we'll start with Suzanne.
Chairman Neal, could we please remind everybody that in August they must go out in the primaries and vote for the school board?
Yeah, we can't hear.
So she says in August, we need folks to go out and vote for the school board. So the school board races are in August. They're on the ballot during the August primary and the constitutional elections. And I neglected to mention school board, but the school board is critical. The 7 school board seats are occupied by Democrats currently. There's one up for election here in District 5 and one in District 1 and District 2. So those are critical races as well.
Thank you.
Yes. I saw Sid today, actually. He's doing well, and he continues to be a member of our organization and support our party, and he's a great guy. I've gotten to meet with him a number of times, and he retired as chairman probably about 10 years ago. But like I said, he's very active in the party. He's been very active in municipal elections and is a great wealth of knowledge for us. We're glad to have him.
Could you repeat his name, please?
Sid Dinerstein, who was our chairman for about 10 years. Any other questions? Yes?
Approximately how long does it take after requesting a vote by mail ballot to receive it?
So they send it out, let's see, there's a vote by mail period that is before the early voting period, and it's different for the different voting times. So you got the municipal elections, there's a vote by mail, the August primaries is a vote by mail, and in November there's a vote by mail. And they'll send, when you request it, they'll get 2 mailings from the SOE, which is great for us and our candidates because it's 2 mailings that the SOE pays for and that we don't have to pay for and our candidates don't have to pay for. So they'll send you an instructional ballot first, which is just a sample, and then they'll send you the actual ballot. But they will send it, you can look online, they'll tell you when, but it's well enough ahead of time. So you have, I think, almost a month. It's about a month period where you can mail it in. And then there is a cutoff date. And as I said, if you request it, you can bring it into the polls and you can vote in person. Even if you forget it, you can still come in. You can always vote in person. They're not going to turn you away. And even if you had it at home, say, I forgot it, you come in, they're not going to turn you away at the polls. But it's definitely a great option to have. Yes?
I moved here recently. Do I have to have my address changed from where I moved?
You should definitely update your address so that you You can go online, you can call the supervisor of elections and tell them, because you want to be at your current address, because then you'll have your local polling place and you can vote in all your local elections. So you got to have your address updated so you can vote in the Boca municipals and the county commission and all that. So just call the SOE and tell them what you need to do and they can help you with it. Yes.
I want to know if you're registered with a different party and you want to change parties, and you've already filled out the application for the mail-in ballot, how you would do that with the voter registration.
You can do it online. You can change your party online on the SOE website. Just Google change party Palm Beach County SOE, or you could call them as well. But you can, even if you requested the mail-in ballot, they'll connect the dots there. You can change your party. They have a deadline that's, I think, 30 days before the election or something. We're outside that deadline, so you can go online tomorrow and you can certainly do that. And I should point out the primary is a closed primary in Florida, so you have to be a registered Republican to be able to vote for Governor DeSantis or President Trump in the primary.
That's why I was asking. And I know it sounds stupid, but what is, you're saying SOE, what's
Supervisor of Elections. Sorry, I should have said that. Wendy Lanker, Supervisor of Elections up in West Palm. VotePalmBeach.org is the website, but if you just Google Palm Beach County Supervisor Elections, it comes right up. Any other questions? Well, thanks very much. I appreciate you having me.
Okay, Hilda Merwin, the
Yes.
microphone is yours.
Yes, thank you. What I'm going to do first is let you know who our speakers are this evening. And when I do that, would you come up, please? Ike Blocker? Oh,
Hilda, use the mic.
use the mic.
It's easier.
Can you hear me now? Ike Blocker, please join me. Karen Moskowitz, please come right up. And Joseph Rubin. I have to tell you something about Joseph. He flew in today from Israel. John, is that right, Joseph?
Okay.
I did that the last time. Remember when I called Gail? I don't know. I'm getting myself crazy. So forget the joke. His first name begins with a J.
They got it. They got
J.
it.
O. Jonathan.
Thank you on this.
Thank you. I can't believe I did that. You don't know how often I talk to this guy. It's amazing. Okay, I just want to thank Anna for the introduction and for getting this started. And this is the first time we've really been close to the beginning of 7 o'clock, which is an accomplishment. And I thank you so much for joining us. You are and have become a leader of our party, really par excellence. Thank you. You are so motivated, and you motivate us.
Kevin.
We're very lucky to have you. Peggy Seidman-Gossett, our representative, thought she might be able to be here tonight. However, she's busy doing her work with the governor, and she has initiated a legislation that has to do with Israel. And I don't know what the content is yet, but I'm sure I will be getting it. And now as I've asked the panel to sit down, we are about to do something very special. I am a child of the Holocaust, as are, I am sure, so many who are here tonight. Over the years, we said never again over and over. And here we are, having to say never again once more. On October 7th, Hamas launched an unprovoked and unprecedented multi-pronged deadly attack on Israel by land, by air, and by sea. Loud demonstrations in support of these vile terrorists, even among some of our own elected congresspeople, as you know, have shockingly taken place here in the US and across the globe. Each one of these individuals at the table will share with you their experience, because each one of them came back to Boca from Israel, and they will tell you exactly what it was they experienced. We begin, however, first by lighting a memorial candle for the soldiers who were killed in battle, for the babies, parents, grandparents who were burned, raped, tortured, and murdered, for the more than 200 captured, and of course, for the Israel Defense Forces, who are facing today's evil, barbaric enemies. Would you kindly stand? Henny Weisvogel is going to light that candle. And on your tables, when she finishes lighting the candles, you have in front of you the psalm. Get me a copy, please.
23rd Psalm.
The 23rd Psalm of David. It is known by so many people, and for good reason. So please join me in reciting this. A Psalm of David.
God is my shepherd,
I shall lack nothing. In lush pastures he makes me lie. Beside frank waters he leads me. My soul he restores. He directs me in paths of righteousness for the sake of his name. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I feel no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table for me in the full presence of my enemies. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of my God for many years to come. And if you read the bottom notation, you'll see that it says this psalm voices our belief that God supports and nourishes us even when the situation seems hopeless. Please be seated.
All right, we finally got the candle. It only took us about 10 tries on that matchbook. I think whoever matchbook that is needs a new matchbook.
We are going to begin hearing the stories of our wonderful panel. I'm going to be very brief about who they are, and I'm going to move this away, because we have a selection of photos that we'll show shortly. You'll see. But first, I want to introduce Ike Blocher. He has so many titles that I'm going to curtail them. He is a vice president of the Jewish National Fund. He headed up various attorney associations.
Bar associations.
Well,
Yes, President.
they're a bar, but not that kind of bar.
That's what they
And he is a philanthropist as well. If I'm having difficulty reading, it's because I've had a problem with my eye. So, in other words, we are so grateful that he is here. He has been he's been in Israel, he told me, for 5 months, and is very familiar with the area that was attacked. So, author and editor of multi-volume collected opinions of professional ethics. Professional ethics, that's a good thing. So there's more, but I think we want to hear what he has to say.
Thank you.
You have to turn it on. I'll turn it on for you. Here, this one's on. This one's on.
Thank you.
Yeah, this one's on. This one's on, you don't have to hold it.
Thank you, Hilda.
You're welcome.
And good evening, everyone. Israel is a land of contrasts. 2 weeks ago on Thursday, October 5, during the intermediate days of the holiday of Sukkot, 50,000 people were walking the streets of the city of Jerusalem in a festive march. Christian supporters of Israel came from more than 70 countries in an annual event that culminates in the Old City and around it. This year, for the first time, I saw bagpipes on the parade, which was fascinating. The parade actually starts in front of my house, because I face Gan Sacha, which is such a park in the middle of the city.
Try this one, please.
Try this.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. So it was a joyous event. People coming from all over the world to share in Israel and its progress. 2 days later, Shabbos, Saturday morning, in Israel it was the final day for the holiday of Sukkot, Shmini Atzeres and Simchat Torah. Those are the words in Hebrew describing the day. And I was leaving my house. My home in Jerusalem since 1986 faces the Knesset, the Israel Parliament, and the soccer park. Walking up the street at approximately 10 minutes after 8, a little bit late for the synagogue, which we were starting our prayers that morning at 8 o'clock, and the sirens went off. Now, I'm familiar with sirens in Israel. I've been there during Saddam Hussein's rocket firing on Israel and other times. 3-minute sirens means this is a serious thing. Take cover, seek shelter. And I'm listening to the sirens and I'm thinking to myself, what's going on? I'm actually in an alleyway between two Jerusalem stone-clad buildings, so I'm pretty safe, wondering what's going on. The siren stops. I continue walking up the hill toward my synagogue, and I start hearing booms, loud booms. I turn around and I face the Knesset, and I see above the Knesset, actually 10 miles away, missiles striking other missiles in the sky, and each time an Israeli missile, defense missile, hits a rocket being fired from Gaza, you hear the explosion and the explosion of the booms, and I'm hearing them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I think to myself, this is serious. I get to the synagogue, and all of the men and women in the synagogue are huddled in the stairwells, away from the windows and away from glass, because the protocol is, if you hear a siren or something's happening, you don't stand near glass because it could shatter and harm somebody, but if you're in the stairwells, that's the closest place, etc. And again, people in the synagogue, nobody really is understanding what's going on except for the fact that we're hearing the sirens. 2 of the men say, I've got to go home right now, because they have the keys to the miklat, which is the Hebrew word for the shelter that every building has in Israel. They have the keys to their apartment buildings, so they've got to go and open the doors to the miklat in their buildings for other people to find safety in. finally the sirens stop, and we continue with the prayers. In our synagogue in Jerusalem, several people come to the synagogue in walkers or wheelchairs. People in Cwntury Village know exactly what I'm talking about. And there are aides who come with them, and many of the aides are Filipinos. And one young Filipino man has his cell phone in front of him. We know him because we see him every week with this man that he accompanies to the synagogue. And he's telling us what he's seeing on his screen on his cell phone. And he tells us that apparently it started around 6:30 this morning. There are reports of terrorists crossing the fence coming into Israel, and there are rockets, and that's the news we have up to approximately 8:30 in the morning. We continue our prayers, and then the sirens go off a second time. We stop, we huddle in the stairwells, and then a third time, at which time the rabbi and the president both agree, everybody go home, because you're safer at home than in a public area, and finish your prayers by yourself. And most people don't know what's happening yet. But I noticed that the streets of Jerusalem where we live, which are usually on holidays crowded with people, are empty. And there are several synagogues in my area, which is the Sharet Tzedek, the Romema, and the Rehavia and Kiryat Wolfson sections of Jerusalem, and the, what did I say? I apologize if that's on my mind. Sharet Chesed, thank you very much. My mind is not here yet. I just got off the plane a few days ago, so it's still there. And many of the synagogues are letting their people leave. Some are staying, but the streets are generally quiet. And my wife is in bed at home because she's gone through several surgical procedures. I don't want to leave her alone for too long. I get home, but I pass another Filipino looking at his phone, and I ask him what's going on, and he tells me, and that's how I learn how serious this is. By Saturday night, it's full-fledged war. I turn on the Israeli newscasts, channels 11, 12, and 13, which are the Hebrew language newscasts, and they give me more information. And I recognize that this is serious. As an aside, I've been involved in the development of an area in Israel called Chalutza. It's along the Egyptian-Israeli border, where when Israel withdrew all of its communities from the Gaza Strip in 2005, the Egyptian government asked Arik Sharon, who was the prime minister at that time, could Israel develop the Chalutza Sands area? That's a plateau along the Israeli-Egyptian border. Egypt wanted Israel to build there because it's a plateau, and Egypt reasoned that if there are Jews living there, they will stop the smuggling that's going on between the Sinai and Israel of women and guns and drugs. And so Egypt asked Israel to build there. And in early 2006, I was there, and I have pictures with me and the sand, because it's only sand there, very little sparse vegetation, meeting with Iran Etna, the deputy director for the Southern District, and the two of us start mapping out plans of how to develop that. I still have the original plans in my possession. I don't believe what we did. And Iran tells me, well, we got permission to build 25 houses in Chalutza 1 and 35 houses in Chalutza 4, and I said, you've got 5,000 families who've been evacuated from Gaza, and you only can give me 25 building sites? That's nonsense. And Iran said to me, Ike, that's all the government will give us. I said, well, maybe that's all you can get from the government. And I went with Russell Robinson, the CEO of Jewish National Fund US, and a few other people to the Minhal, the Israel Land Authority, and I walked out with permits for 450 houses in one, 425 houses in the other, and we started to develop the Chalutza areas. Chalutza 1 and 4 are now known as Bnei Netzarim and Neve. The third community is Shlomit. There are 6,000 people living there now, producing some 85 different varieties of fruits and vegetables which are exported, thriving new communities where the Egyptian soldiers come across the border to buy their food because their commissary is terrible and they like our food better. And I have lots of friends there because I was taking people back and forth to Chalutza to see tourists and other donors, going there 6-8 times a year, regularly every year since 2006. One of my friends there is named Yedidya Charush, and I get on the phone, Yedidya, what's going on? And he says, well, we started to hear the sirens the same time everybody else did. We heard that Yated was being infiltrated by terrorists. Yated is a community, an older community than the ones in Chalutza. It's approximately 2 minutes north of Chalutza. He said he took his gun, although he wasn't called up, he took his gun, he called several other people to go there and try to hold off the terrorists who were trying to infiltrate into Yated, so they could hold them at least until the military got there. And in fact, there was damage to B'nai Nitzarim, where there's a new medical center that serves people from all over the area there. Naveh, which has a Mechina program and brand new schools and communities. Shlomit, which has a new community center that's just being finished now. All of these developments that I've been involved with are all in trouble because we see what's happening. Then my nephew calls me. I have 13 relatives who were called up for the reserves. My nephew Avidan Lando calls me up, Uncle Ike. Now he's a medic. He's a medic in the Israeli reserves who treated Syrian civilians who were caught in the middle of the civil war in Syria, and the wounded mothers and children were coming across the border to get medical treatment. He was the one who was first treating them, doing triage when they were coming across the Syrian border during the civil war in Syria. He calls me up, Uncle Ike, I'm volunteering, I'm back on duty. I'm not surprised. And I'm working here in the South, and he says to me, in Hebrew, all this goes on, he says to me, I'm going to send you some pictures, but I don't know what you're going to do with them. Until the army tells me not to send pictures, I'm sending you some pictures. And he sends me some pictures from Kibbutz Aza and from Be'eri, two of the communities that were hardest hit by the infiltrators, the terrorists who crossed the border. And I finally tell him, must speak enough. Avidan, I love you dearly. Don't send me any more pictures because I can't take them. I can't really look at these pictures anymore because they're telling me of something that's occurring right then and there, and words cannot adequately describe what's going on. No matter what news channel you've watched, whether it's Israeli channels or I-24 here in the United States or CNN or Fox News, whatever it is, they do not adequately describe what took place. Israel is an interesting place with contrasts. One of the things that occurs almost immediately is that people from all walks of life start to volunteer. In our synagogue, a group of people get together, set up an entire assembly line to fill boxes of toiletries, warm clothing, other items that soldiers may need who've gone to their reserve units but didn't bother to take anything or pack anything. They just went. 350,000 of them. So we're packing boxes in an assembly line. In 4 hours in that synagogue, the Bet Knesset HaNasi, we packed and sent into army trucks some 6,000 boxes. All volunteers. doing this, getting supplies and assembly line going up and down the place. That's what happens. Many of the public places in Jerusalem, which is where we live, the restaurants are not serving food. They'll give you takeout because we don't have staff. Where's your staff? They're gone. And you should know that among the volunteers that I've seen are Druze. Those of you who don't know what the word D-R-U-Z-E is, that's an Islamic sect, a break-off from mainstream Islam in about the 11th century. They live in peace in Israel. They serve in the Israeli Defense Forces. And I see Druze on the streets of Jerusalem collecting garbage because the regular people are not doing it, so they're doing it. One Rosh Yeshiva, that's the head of a Jewish seminary, tells his 200 students in the Beis Medrash, in the study hall, close your Gemaras. You're all going out and volunteering. I don't care what you do, but you're not coming here. You're needed elsewhere. And some of them volunteer in medical centers. Some of them volunteer in social services center. I have a granddaughter who's 18 years old who works with disabled children, children in need of special needs. And she says, Saba, what should I do? I said, well, you know what? A lot of parents being called up, who's going to watch the children? She says, that's a great idea. She's getting all of the girls in her seminary, all 480 of them, to offer child care, daycare for the children whose parents are being called up for their reserves. And this is a Haredi girl. When I say Haredi, she's very religious. Her family is very religious. My son and his family are all very religious. So that's what she's doing. Her older sister, Miriam, is taking children who are in the ages of 8 to 12 and being a substitute teacher for them because their regular teacher was called up. And that's just a small example of voluntary efforts that you see going on constantly. I did not go down south. I thought about it. My wife wisely said, don't go. There's nothing you could do. You're going to drive there and drive back. What for? But you can be on the phone and you can serve as a coordinator of some efforts. I've done that before for Magen David Adon in terms of blood work and getting doctors there, etc. It's disheartening, frightening words perhaps that are not adequate to describe what people are feeling day in and day out. And the political divide that has existed in Israel for the last year or so disappeared. Benny Gantz came in and said, we're going to do a unity government, forget the politics, we've got work to do. Israel is holding off on the invasion of Gaza for whatever reason and however the strategy works. I'm not privy to that, and nobody is, which is good. But rest assured, the world has changed in this respect. Israel knows that Hamas cannot be allowed to continue to exist, not only in its present form, but in any form. The bestiality that we've witnessed firsthand cannot continue. I'll answer questions, but I just want to close by saying that I haven't talked to some of my relatives who are in the reserves. Some of them can't use their phones because they'd be spotted. But every time I look at a TV screen and I see some reporter reporting from, he's in State Road, and I look at the sign, I said, actually he's not in State Road, he's about 5 miles outside of the city because he's on the road. I know exactly where he is because I've driven those roads. I drove past Be'eri more times than I can count. I know the village. I know where it goes. I know the road that goes by it because that's on my way to Chalutza. nobody can adequately describe what has taken place. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Moskowitz is quite an active person. She's also a child of the Holocaust. I'll pretend I'm in school. She actually went to Czechoslovakia where she was born, and since her time here, as long as I've known her, she's involved in several organizations, including Names Not Numbers and Second Generation. Karen Moskowitz, please.
I was born in Košice, Czechoslovakia in 1947, just 2 years after the end of World War II. My mother was a Holocaust survivor, the sole survivor of her entire family. From my earliest memory, that is what defined her. My father, one of 7 children, survived during the war as a partisan. As a second-generation Holocaust survivor with no father, unfortunately he passed away when I was 9 months old, no grandparents, no cousins, and only one aunt and uncle, all my parents' friends and their children were our family. I guess one can say the Holocaust defined me as well. Living in Staten Island, New York, I was always involved with Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day. More recently, living in Boca Raton, I've been interviewing Holocaust survivors for a program called Names Not Numbers so that we could give them a platform to share their stories and educate the students about their Jewish history. It also allowed us to pay tribute and bear witness to the atrocities and inhumanity that they had endured to ensure that the dead would be remembered and it could never happen again. All that changed on October 7th of this year. On Wednesday, October 4th, my husband and I traveled to Israel to spend quality time with our son, daughter-in-law, 7 grandchildren, a granddaughter-in-law, and our very first adorable great-granddaughter. We also had come to attend my nephew's wedding to take place in a beautiful hall just outside of Jerusalem the following week. We rented a studio apartment a mile away from our children's apartment in Jerusalem. I arranged with my granddaughter that while my husband was in the synagogue praying on Shabbos, Saturday, October 7th, she would pick me up at 11 a.m. to escort me to their apartment because the walk was very hilly. At about 9 a.m., there was a very loud knock at my door. When I opened the door, there stood my daughter-in-law and my granddaughter and asked, "Are you scared?" "Of what?" I responded. "Didn't you hear the siren?" "Wasn't that an ambulance? Why would I be afraid of an ambulance?" "Grandma, that wasn't an ambulance. That was a siren alerting us to seek shelter in our safe room or in our bomb shelters. We are being attacked with rockets." I quickly got dressed and we left. In the middle of a very steep hill, I had to stop to catch my breath. Just then, there was another siren. I begged my granddaughter to run to the nearest shelter without me, but she refused. Then we heard the explosion of the rocket being broken up by the Iron Dome. Luckily, there was no shrapnel falling from the sky, and we continued on our way. Later, there were other sirens, and we, as well as the other tenants of the building, ran down to the bomb shelter. The streets, usually filled with beautiful children, parents and grandparents, taking walks or visiting each other, looked like a ghost town. Being observant Jews, we had no access to radio, TV, or newspapers, and had no idea of the atrocities, the depravities, and tragedy that had befallen our people in the South. After the Sabbath, as we began hearing the news, the horrors and the nightmares of my mother and father became reality in the lives of our people. My mother would say to me, "I suffered enough for all of us so that you would never have to suffer." In a way, I'm grateful that she is not here now to witness our new nightmare. Over the next few days, there were more sirens and we had to seek shelter. Despite that, we decided that we wanted to attend our nephew's wedding a half an hour away in Beit Shemesh. All the plans had been changed. No more than 50 people, including staff, could attend the wedding. The hall had called to cancel. Most of the guests were uninvited. The small room under the synagogue where my brother-in-law prayed was to be the wedding hall. A neighborhood chef offered to cook the meal. The women in the community decorated the room and the wedding canopy and found flowers for the bride. The young men and women in the neighborhood, many of whom had siblings, called up to the front, determined to make this wedding a happy occasion, danced their hearts out to celebrate the bride and groom. I have never been to a more beautiful wedding. Sorry. Coming back to Jerusalem the next morning, we noticed all the malls, the stores, except the groceries and supermarkets, were shut. Many had signs saying, "Closed, off to war." We returned home on Tuesday, October 17th. So many thoughts run through my mind. Where are the hostages? Will they ever be released safe and alive? How will they be able to go on with their lives after suffering all their physical and mental anguish? I think of the hundreds of thousands of Israelis being evacuated and displaced for their security. Where will they go? What will happen to their jobs? Where are their husbands, fathers, and sons? Will they ever see them alive again? If I may, I'd like to share with you a part of a letter written by Rabbi Ephraim Goldberg of Boca Raton Synagogue. We are all parts of this war. Israel is battling on the front lines, but this is not only their war. The horrific massacre and atrocities in Israel have revealed the ugly reality of Hamas sympathizers who live in major cities around America and Europe. We have watched supposedly educated, respectable people not only fail to condemn brutal murder, rape, and kidnapping, but defend it, identify with it, and reveal that they would be perfectly fine with it being perpetrated against us, their neighbors, not in Israel, but around the world. Hamas has in its charters not only to drive Jews from Israel, but to kill Jews around the world. This is not something that happened or is happening over there. You are not a spectator to this war. You are not on the sidelines. We all have skin in this, and we should be acting like it. I would like to close with a well-known poem, actually a post-war confessional written by the German Luther pastor Martin Niemöller in 1946. First they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the communists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I didn't speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. Thank you.
Well, we have the youngest, as you can see, of our panel, who also, as I mentioned a little while ago, arrived today from Israel, and he has been there for a while. He's been an activist, and I want him to tell you some of the things that he has accomplished. He was very active in the effort to get school choice passed by the state legislature through Teach America and the OU. And that has been a marvelous thing, not just for children who are in day schools, but also for those who have special needs, and especially for them, because they need special instruction. So I turn it over to Jonathan Rubin.
Thank you all for the program. Do I need a mic? Is the mic, can you? Yeah? Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Jonathan Rubin. I grew up here in Boca Raton, been attending BRS my whole life. My family has been going back and forth to Israel since I was in 10th grade. So we've been spending over 10 years doing this Israel-America back and forth. I finished college there, I went to yeshiva there, came back for my master's, but obviously feel very connected there. Many of my siblings are still there, working in the hospitals, working in the special needs schools. My friends are, of course, on the front lines. And there's just so many stories, and I don't want to repeat what's already been said, so I'm trying to trim down, and I've gotten it down to 5 points. So I'm going to try to be quick, but I think that everything I'm going to say is something that hasn't been heard and is worth hearing. I'm going to start with the airport. When I left, and I'm sure you saw this too, there were big signs in Hebrew that said Na'avor Ze Yachad. Now, what does Na'avor Ze Yachad mean? It means we will get through this together. And there's this feeling of camaraderie that we're all in it together. Since the airport, I've seen pictures on Facebook that it's even on the toilet paper now. This slogan of we're all going through this together, we're all suffering together, we're all helping each other. And people ask me, were you not able to get out? The answer is yes, and the answer is no. Did all the airlines cancel their flights? Yes. Was the American government and the governor helping Americans that wanted to get out? Yes. But I kept pushing my ticket further in time. My parents kept pushing their ticket further in time because they wanted to help. My parents wanted to babysit their grandkids. I wanted to help my friends get the equipment they needed. I wanted to be able to help, willing to help wherever I could. So while there's this rush, this fear to come back, there are many people that just want to stay. And I remember sitting in the airport looking at these signs, bawling, crying, saying, why am I coming back to America? I love America. I've been very involved in different levels, but this emotional fear that I'm abandoning my friends and family members, those who could really use the help there. We were talking about the rockets. Jerusalem, we live in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is relatively quiet when it comes to these situations. We've been in these situations before. We knew that as soon as sirens were going off in Jerusalem, this was not going to be a walk in the park. Usually Jerusalem is the last place the Hamas likes to go after. There are holy sites there. There's a high Arab population there. For whatever reason, Jerusalem is usually protected. And as the media information came out, we knew they were just trying to overwhelm the system, and Jerusalem was a distraction for what was going on the ground. As more and more information came out and names came out, we all knew people who were on those lists. I had a friend who died in the massacre and who was with me in high school. This is not the first friend I've lost in conflicts like this. And I actually made a note to bring my yearbook back in case, unfortunately, there were any more that I would have to point out to people and say, these are friends of mine who gave their lives for our country. Different stories that were going on. A few years ago, I was very involved in starting college campus programs in Israel. Again, I went to college there, so I started an IDC Herzliya, and that program was so successful, expanded to 6 other campuses around the country. And, occasionally I'll go through the WhatsApps and the Facebooks. This friend got engaged. This people decided to move to Israel. These people became citizens. And it's this very noble, good feeling that you have friends that are deciding to spend college years or more in Israel. And studying, going on these feeds over these last few weeks, it's no longer, yay, who's getting engaged. It becomes real war efforts. Shuls converted to storerooms. volunteer drives, getting equipment, sending it out. So really this change of perception of this happiness to what can we do, Nasev and Nishma, jumping up and saying, tell us what to do and we'll figure it out. There was one story in particular that stuck out to me, that we were hosting a babysitting, a kindergarten, a gan for those who ran from the south. And so, we had a few families come. There were 30 families the first day, then it went up to 70 children the second day. And we said, okay, great, welcome to Jerusalem. Would you like to put your bags down? And, get comfortable before you come to the pool, before you come and have a barbecue, before you take a second to breathe. And they look at the staff, they looked to us and they said, bags, you think we have bags? We came, this is what we had. This is everything we have. We just came as quick as we can. The army wasn't necessarily communicating when we could leave the bunker. We felt it was safe. We hit the road. If you have some extra clothes, that'd be great. That's the mentality going on. To continue what you said, what Ike said, Israel's going to have a lot of issues going forward besides just the direct Hamas situation. Israel is short-staffed. My sister is a doctor in one of the hospitals. She was one of 4. She's 7 months pregnant. We're very excited. But all 3 of the other people were called up. Now she is the department in one of these major hospitals for this specific situation. You walk around the streets, a lot of the sukkahs are still up for the holiday. There's just no one down, to take it down. So helping where we can, understanding their needs, understanding just what to do. I'm very, very happy that, your nephew had a wedding. A lot of these questions are going through my friends' minds, and even in my mind. Is it appropriate to get married now? Does it make sense? Do you want to get married right away? Do you want to postpone? We're kind of going through this COVID deja vu of, can you have everyone together? Do you want everyone together? Is that safe? Is it fair? Our families are in America, our families in Israel. How can we put all those pieces together in terms of, getting to that next step in life? But I think there's this overall passion. Everyone here came to help. You see these rallies going all over the country, all over the world. People want to help. So I want to answer the question of what people could really do for Israel today. Coming to these events is beautiful. Getting educated is beautiful. Feeling the pain of siblings and friends and other people's friends is beautiful. But what could we really help? And I would say there are 4 relatively low-hanging fruit. I'd say the first one is just calling friends who have siblings, have children in Israel, and are just feeling at a loss because they can't help, everyone. They can't help people there, but, at least be a shoulder to cry on or a supportive hand. The second thing, where possible, buy Israeli products. The Israeli economy is going to take a hit. A third, if not more, of the workforce is simply not working. And if you can't create, you can't bring money in. And as, inflation and other things are making it more challenging, the economy is just going to continue to stall. There's a movement going on to lend your apartments out to people in the South. So there are organizations, the World Zionist Organization comes to mind, that will be the guarantor, or they'll be the insurance, in case there are any damages. So if you or your friends have apartments and you're not in Israel right now, you can lend them out. Different causes like that. But the final thing, and this is the one that doesn't necessarily have the call to action just yet, but something to take in mind is something that we've learned from Gilad Shalit and many of these other situations is that, God willing, this crisis will end soon, but for these 200 plus hostages, and all the families that are affected, but also all the IDF soldiers who don't live in that part of the country, but may not make it to the end of this conflict, all their families who are going to be left as orphans and widows. I'm partnering with this organization. Just by their rough numbers, if on average every soldier has 2 children, and so far there are over 300 soldiers that have fallen. I'm following so closely. Over 300,
Yes.
And another 100 police officer, and another 100 different parts of security forces. That's not even talking about the people in the massacre. So if you take 400, which is still a low estimate, times 2, you're talking about over 800 orphans. And these issues are not going to be solved, even when the war ends. They're going to be going on decades from now. So I would say the only thing to really do is continue this passion, help out where you can. But remember, even when the war and conversation eventually turns over, there's still going to be a lot of help and work to do, and hopefully we'll all be able to help from here and from there. So.
Thank you very much. We're not doing so badly, time-wise. Are there any questions? Would you please stand and tell us your name?
Oh, sure. David Sapp here. I live in Brighton, G. I just got back also, and I followed where you were walking and where you davened, etc. Near where I davened. Anyway, besides, I also went to a beautiful wedding in Vancouver, stunning wedding, most beautiful wedding I've ever seen. And then 2 weeks later, the chassan was called up, 2 weeks after his chasana. Anyway, I'd like to ask Ike, the ZOA came out today with a report, nothing new, that 57% of the Muslims in Gaza, I think, but that's probably similar around the world, support Hamas in what they did. 57%. Now the question I have for that you might know because of your experiences, how do the Israelis, how does the IDF distinguish between a person in Gaza who may not have served, but they probably supported Hamas, which is likely, and Hamas? How do they, is there any way of distinguishing between a Hamas person who's not carrying a gun, probably from the U.S. armament when we abandoned Afghanistan, unfortunately, but is there any way of distinguishing, aren't they the same people?
Could you answer that briefly?
Very briefly.
Thank you.
It's with great difficulty. If the Hamas person is wearing a uniform, that makes it easier. But so many do not wear uniforms. They are dressed in ordinary clothes, but carrying weapons. And I don't know how you make a distinction. You can say, how do you make a distinction? I don't know. I mean, my Arabic is decent. I can hear somebody talking, but looking at them, no way of knowing.
Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering if anyone, either an activist group or a coordinated group in the county or in the state, is anyone able to reach out to groups of physicians? I know that several have already left their positions here to go over. Is there a coordinated effort going on?
Coordinated effort of getting
The healthcare
physicians to go
The
to
healthcare
Israel.
system at large, yeah.
Yeah.
There are two organizations that are actively doing this. One is Magen David Adom, which has lists of doctors, etc., and they are recruiting. I remember during the Yom Kippur War, I was working in their office, and I arranged for a plane load of, I don't know whether they're having plane loads yet. And the other one is Zaka has an arm in the United States. They are also involved in many other things, but definitely getting medical supplies and medical personnel. I know that the head in Jerusalem said that they're working on this. How successful they are, I don't know.
Could you tell us what Zaka is, please?
Zaka is an organization which originally started from a religious point of view. If somebody is killed and blown apart, the pieces of their bodies are collected by Zaka volunteers so that they are buried along with the person, because the Jewish law requires that all parts of the human being be buried and being given the dignity of burial together. They've expanded their role. Eli Beer is trying to do something. He's the
United.
He's coming
Hatzalah.
here, I believe,
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
our
Ellie's coming.
synagogue.
Oh, okay. So the person who founded Hatzalah, which is another volunteer organization, which includes, by the way, Jews and non-Jews in Israel and everything. They too may be working on this, but I haven't spoken to Ellie in the last 2 months, so I don't know. I saw him before Yontif. I don't know what they're doing, but that's a possibility. I don't know of anybody else.
All right. I just want to make a comment too. If Yossi would join me over here, please. My granddaughter is in a seminary in Jerusalem. And God bless her, she tries to call me every Friday to wish me a good Sabbath. Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos. And I said, so how you doing? She sounds so casual. Well, buddy, we just baked, the young girls there, just baked 1,000 challah rolls and 6,000 chocolate chip cookies and packaged some sweet things like, the sour things to bring to the soldiers. This is happening everywhere, and I want to bring your attention now to what Yossi is doing in selling these bracelets. They have already put together packages for the, here are some of those photos that he accumulated. I told him not the difficult ones, please. Okay. So I'm encouraging you. I've got one. And my sister-in-law, some of you know, Elaine Jacobs, she just ordered, she said, buy 20 and when I come, I'm going to get more. So this is a way for us to really do this together. I have some closing remarks, but let's just get some photos that Yossi put together. Could you do that now? To encourage you to help. This is another organization that is working on bringing equipment to the IDF, and the money that is raised goes 100% to this effort.
To the Friends of IDF?
Tell him how.
To the Friends of IDF?
No, we're doing it privately through our organization. We are the Boca Parliament. I don't know if you heard about it. It's an organization right here in Boca, about 230.
You have Namutah here?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
230 Hebrew-speaking audience with their spouses, so over 400. And my wife has an organization of over 200 women. It's called the Women's Circle. We're doing for many years already all kinds of activities for the Jewish and Israeli population right here in Boca Raton. I just want to add a little bit before I'm going to show what we are doing. Everything that you were saying here was exactly the way it is, and every time I talk about it, it's getting really emotional. About how to give, and you gave a lot of the great information for everybody here who doesn't know exactly how to give. In my opinion, there are very large organizations here, such as JNF, FIDF, Magen David Adom, the Jewish Federation, and many others. They are all doing great jobs throughout the years, and much more right now in this very hard times. I know their plans, or at least some of their plans, they're looking at the long term. So they're helping right now in what they do, but they know, like was said before, this is not going to end right now. The war is probably not going to end right now, and even when the war ends, or when it ends, it's going to be very tough times for everybody that lives in Israel, and possibly to us as well right here, as was mentioned before. We have to unite, all of us. There is not going to be, in my opinion, no second chance here. This is the moment that we never thought was going to happen, and it happened. So we need to all be together in that mission to support Israel and to support the Jewish community right here in our backyard. Because I don't know if you watch TV and you see that the other side is not sitting and saying nothing. They are there, and they are not with us. I can tell you that. There's all kind of things that we see all the time, so we need to make sure that we are all together in this. So these organizations are doing a great job. There are smaller organizations. There is a lot of money that is being donated through money and as well as merchandise that is necessary, whether it's for combat or whether it's to help others. So anything that you can do to help any of those organizations is greatly appreciated and is important. The other thing that I would recommend to do besides donating, and I'm sure what we're doing, is talk to other people. You have friends that are Jewish and non-Jewish. The liberals are the people that you can convince and explain what is going on over there. The extremists, we have no chance because they're already, their mind is set. However, those that can be convinced and being explained nicely what is going on there is very crucial for our winning of this war. This war is not only in the battlefield. Everybody needs to know that and probably know. The war is in the social media. The war is between me and the other person that doesn't think that Israel has the right to defend itself, that Hamas has to be unexistent, that later on Hezbollah also. We have to make sure that we go against our enemies. And at this point, as everybody is saying, Hamas is ISIS, which is worse than ISIS, and we have to work together in order to do that. Me and my wife, and throughout the organization that we're doing, we started to gather things. We're getting calls from different areas, whether it's from soldiers or from the kibbutzim. Like, for example, you all heard probably about Kfar Aza. They had many casualties. Many of them, about 300, were gone to Shfayim, which is a kibbutz in center north. And they needed some stuff. We contacted them, they contacted us, we contacted them to make sure exactly what they need. And then within 24 hours, we got them a little over 300 shoes, put them in the pallets, and send them to Israel. And now we're selling those bracelets that you see, the $5 a piece, brought a few $1,000s within very short period of time. And we send right away with suitcases because it's so much quicker. All kind of supplies that they need in Israel. You see, we pack them like that, put them in the suitcase, and get them to there. And this is Saturday night flight, so Sunday afternoon it was already there with the soldiers. You see the knee. We just bought those things and we received them today. As soon as we get all the packages, we're sending more stuff to Israel. So if you want to support, you can purchase those bracelets, just like mine here.
Like mine.
And many of you already bought. You can, on your exiting here, you can do that. Or like I said, you can donate in any other way. In the parliament, we also started to purchase a motorcycle that help, inside of Israel. I don't know how many of you have been there lately. I know they've just been there. But over there, when the roads are crowded on the regular days, not now, this is a very useful vehicle in order to help. And if somebody is hurt or something, they take care of it right away. So anything that you can do, if you need to contact me or my wife, Hilda is here and can make the connection. And anything that you do, like it was said here before, we're doing it for ourselves as well, not just for the sake of Israel. Because if we want to continue to live here as Jewish people, and I have to say, even non-Jewish people, these criminals, when they are going to start and continue, we're going to be in deep trouble all over the world.
We're ready to close, and I have some final comments. First of all, thank you all for coming. This is a full house, and I am personally so proud to know so many of you. And if you are... Well,
thank you.
My good friend Bill Riley. He always shows up. And we have a representative, happens to be her son, Peggy Gossett-Seidman. I told you about a bill that she is authoring in the state, and the governor is supporting it, and I'd like Austin, our young man, to come and tell us about it in very, very quickly.
Hi guys,
That
this
felt
is my
good, by the
first
way.
public speech. This is kind of surreal. Anyway, so I don't know if you guys met my mom, State Representative Peggy Gossett-Seidman, blonde curly hair, super perky. She got elected this last October, a year ago, and we have an election next year. But it's unbelievable what my grandma lived in Century Village, right? And so I grew up coming here in the clubhouses and all. And it's just crazy coming back here with this, but she spent she went to 8 synagogues. We have 16 in her district, by the way. It's one of the highest of the entire country, 16 in District 91, which is Highland Beach and all of Boca Raton, all the way out unincorporated. So anyway, this last week, they had the Democrats, Republicans, everyone, blacks, Arabics, whites, Jewish, everyone, Hispanics, they gathered in the Capitol Rotunda. You can look it up later, and they signed House Speaker Paul Renner. They signed a bicameral, so it's House and Senate, and they had the Kathleen Passidomo, who's the Senate President, a Democrat, and Paul Renner. They both signed it, and the proclamation was in support of the state of Israel and condemning Hamas. And what is that? It is a start of something. Yesterday, and my mom, including other people, if I can read this, I'm sorry, but if you want to look it up tonight, House Bill HB 125. So HR 125, State of Israel, resolution by Representative Waldron, Gossett-Seidman, co-introducers Arrington, Cassell, Gross, Gottlieb, Silvers, Skidmore, and Tant. State of Israel expresses support for the State of Israel, filed 1017. I just want to read one paragraph. So it is a resolution expressing support for the State of Israel. Whereas the State of Florida recognizes the State of Israel to exist as a sovereign and independent nation with full rights and privileges afforded to all under international law, and whereas the State of Florida has a long-standing alliance with the State of Israel, which is founded ahead of democratic principles and common interests, whereas the beginning of October 7th, the United States designated terrorist organization whose charter calls for the destruction of the State of Israel, launched an attack, as we all know. And whereas the State of Israel stands firmly in the solidarity, where Florida stands in the solidarity with the State of Israel in its efforts to safeguard its citizens, protect its borders, and to ensure the safety and securities of its people now and therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the State of Florida. That's just the first page, so you guys can look it up tonight. But HR 125, and so it's signed. This is not a political thing. This is Catholics, Baptists, blacks, whites, Republicans. It's everyone. I thankfully don't know anyone over there dealing with this. You know, I don't have any family over there, but I know so many people who their family live there. And I cannot. It's really hitting personal for me. You know, it's never been. And I'm half Jewish, right? But not my mom, so technically I'm not. But so I really feel it's not. My dad always tells me when he visited Israel for his birthright, he'll never forget when he landed. They said "Welcome home," and he started to cry. And I really feel this ancestral something. I mean, the people have been kicked out of every city, every country for how long? I'm not. I saw the video when they were storming, and the people stood up, grabbed a pistol, and they were the ones who took down in the kibbutz. It was not a soldier, it was a guy. And I'm just saying, there are people defending their families, and they need to understand what the state is doing. And yes, DeSantis, and that's all national stuff. The House of Representatives signed a bicameral, Democrats, Republicans, everyone signed it, and you guys need to look this up, and we need to get it known, because this is just filed. It's going through all the committees, it has to go back, it's got a whole road to go on. But long story short, she's one of the co-sponsors of it, proudly, and she's also part of the Jewish caucus in the House of Representatives. And we really want you guys to be attached and know who it is, who your representative is, and what they can do for you. and we really want to be in contact, so I'll leave a stack of cards. But either way, I just really want you guys to know that the work, she just got back from Tallahassee. She's been up there for 2 weeks. She's going back up next week. Governor DeSantis called the emergency session coming up, so she's going back up now this next week. And she's been to 8 synagogues for hours and whatnot. Long story short, it's unbelievable what they're getting into and the commitment.
Would you send her
Yes, ma'am.
our love
I will.
and how proud we are of her?
I try to
and
tell her.
how hard she is working for us. And I spoke to her this afternoon, and I said, I know you have a lot to say. I love these tall people.
I miss Grandma too.
Okay, they kiss my Kepler, you know. Anyway, and we will bring her back to tell all of the things that she has done, and a complete session just for her because there's so much to tell. She had an opportunity, but there was much more that she has accomplished since then. So we will bring her back. And thank you, my darling, for coming.
She always says, I did not sign up for this, but now, looking back these last 3 weeks, I'm like, oh, I'm going to sign up for this figure. But, you know, now she's like, no, I did. Like, it's my honor. So I just want to get we're here for you guys, so please reach out.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to leave a stack of cards here, too.
Can you repeat that website?
Yeah.
Let me just finish.
It's House Resolution 125, HR 125. You can Google it, Florida House. That's the resolution. They just filed it.
Okay, let me just quickly finish. I know you've been patient. Thank you all for coming. We hope to see you at our next meetings that we will be having. Look for our flyers to keep you informed about future programs. Thank you all. Israel needs our prayers and our support. We are in the fight together for a future of family values and traditions that are embraced, not vilified. I'm going to close with a message from Psalm 133. You are familiar with this. How good and pleasant it is when brothers and sisters dwell together in unity. If we are to win the fight of this century against a new axis of evil, against the annihilation of the Jewish people again, we here are all bound together for that victory. Amen. Thank you all. And don't forget to thank you for coming.
Thank you, Hilda.